That's how you really.
Oh, very much like a drive-in. It's part of the culture.
I recommend the churros, everyone. Just saying. I don't seem to have them. I want to hear them.
All right, let's see if
Yeah,
can folks hear me? Okay, we're gonna get started in just a second once we're actually live.
Eventually you have to.
She's got a background, for sure. Since you thought they were all.
All right, it is 5:23, so we are 3 minutes behind already. So I'm gonna get us going. I am Sarah Lentz. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm chair of the board and also chair of this committee. And I'm going to be facilitating this session tonight. So if you don't know who you're sitting with, I think all of us do at this point, but introduce yourselves very quickly. For those who might be watching at home or watching the recording of this, we're in kind of a different setup. You may not be able to hear everything that we say because we're going to do some group work tonight, but I can tell you who is in the room from the committee. So we have Ariel, we have Lauren, we have Maya, we have Damon, we have Bill and Rob, Kate, Annie, and Priscilla here in the room. We also have Dr. Warren and Dr. Scallon, and we might have other folks join us over the course of the night tonight. But this is our last Boundaries Committee meeting. As a reminder, this group has been meeting for over a year, so this feels pretty important, and I'm just thankful that so many people are still here and engaging in this work. And so just a couple of housekeeping things about this space, if you're not familiar. So this is the Great Room at Casco Bay, and there are restrooms out in the lobby, which you can get to from those doors there or out these orange doors here. Just walk until you can't walk anymore and you'll be out in the lobby, and you can find all of the restrooms are gender neutral, so you can go either way you want. There's also some vending machines out there if you need them, but there's water and more food, so please eat up on that. We will be using our computer tonight and potentially the big screen up there, but otherwise we'll give you the supplies as we need them. So our goals for tonight is to really land a set of recommendations for the board. And we are hoping, that's a good word, isn't it? We are hoping to have that set of recommendations include learnings about this process, a set of maps. What those maps look like, we still do not know. They could be the current maps. They could be a different set that we have referenced before, but hopefully they will have a set of maps. And then a set of recommendations for the short and long term, including things like budget and allocating resources, programming policies, and anything else that has come up. And then anything that is outstanding or any other work that we feel like we should note to the board. And just one note, I know that we left last week's meeting with kind of a charge to the superintendent and some of his staff to pull some data, but we were just not able to pull all of that data as quickly as we had hoped. So when we get to the recommendation part of tonight where we're writing those recommendations, we will be writing them just like in a more general way as a directive to the board about things that, like if we don't have enough data to make it specific, we'll make it more general, but we can include the directive about the area. But we can talk more about that once we get there. So the first thing that we're going to do today in our tables is we're going to use a big sticky, which is at the end of your table. So you can get a big sticky and you can put it on your table. And you also have markers on your table. Those markers are scented. But if you do not like scented markers, I have unscented markers available. And the question that you're going to write at the top of your page is, what did you learn during this process? Yeah, what did you learn during this process? And you're going to take 10 minutes as a team or a table. This is not a competition, unless you want it to be. But you're going to take 10 minutes and just generate a list of things that you learned during this process about the district.
So it does not smell like anything. You don't want me to, you spent 4 hours.
Okay. It's just hard to write
I
on.
think I knew about this for assessment. They're like,
Yeah.
making decisions.
You
based
learn
on
during
data.
this
Data
process.
Is, you need more insight. And like, you can't just like, go grab a number and spit it out.
Maybe I have one. People are very connected to their schools.
There's people.
Feel very connected.
Yeah.
I learned recently about sort of is mad seed
Data isn't enough.
Lauren and I probably learned a lot of things out of
Right.
That's
true.
I was gonna say that I learned about
One more there.
some of the
That applies to a lot of aspects of the
that
whole process.
only schools like special programs
yes.
or healthcare or
Actually, there's a-
educating and health center.
After that. It's 2 bullets, but.
Yeah. It's kind of an obvious one, but I would think that there's obviously limitations to what you can accomplish by just.
Yeah, I think like
Mhm.
that, to that
Reframing
point, the
boundaries.
capacity piece was interesting to understand.
Oh, yeah, what McCain taught us about like the different ways we get. Or and also sort of along those lines, like,
Yeah.
Those like
Uh,
boundaries?
Yeah,
Okay.
more or less, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, it's just a lot of the stuff that you guys are thinking about, like,
Yeah.
how you boundaries and how to do policy and who is solely for a certain school versus who actually attends school there.
What's that enrollment versus?
That it, that sounds right.
Makes you plan.
Those are the words.
The people, the distribution of affordable housing.
Yeah, I think like what was interesting, I know, I feel like I can't remember it, but, like being just like it's a forecasting piece.
I agree.
It's not about, I think that there's like, it's a bit of not as far as looking at, it's like.
And it's everything to.
Yeah, actual true. I found there like young children living in homes.
Taco.
I mean, right, like more like that middle tier where you think, oh, maybe they're in the building. I think it's gonna garner families to move to.
Maybe that's a part of.
I know
This
this goes
goes
along with
really,
this,
really
that
cool to
walkability.
recommend
I was
for,
like,
like,
when you're looking at that matrix that was showing like, for instance.
But we realized
kindergarten
we're-
cohort that you're
kind of
moving through in the
Uh-huh.
projections at all
Moving
ages,
through
the grades,
Yeah.
and then Reggie is gonna
How
like
much of a
decrease in mobilization over the next 5 years because that big cohort, in part because that big cohort.
It's for for
All this stuff about population.
Yeah.
Also,
Good
That
point.
makes this is the part that I think. And then it goes like,
so it's like
well, it's like this. Everything.
goes to
Not just for the.
boundaries, but it's like we were looking
Like
at
at all.
one little strand.
You're kind
Like, where people can't.
And it's
But it's a
really
affordability.
challenging. Free.
And this.
I get that.
And if like,
Right,
if
if you're not
you actually
able to do
live in the city or certain places, you're either like extremely wealthy
The-
or like.
Yeah, the web part is like,
Yeah, how's it?
it's like this thing, but it affects.
Send their kids.
Right. Exactly. But there's also like private schools and.
And we kind of
It was
talked
interesting
about
to
this.
have it
And
in such a
it's-
long, so
Schools are small.
see it play out.
Like when, and I definitely agree.
Sarah, I was confronted by.
Right, confusing. I'm just gonna go. Well, so I think actually it's separate.
People
Yeah.
gotta choose some boundaries. Makes no sense.
But it's like resident versus.
Fund goes unutilized.
But I think also
And
the
then-
walkability for
and
those
then we kind
families
of
that were
thing.
potentially. You mean the kids who are placed out, like, within the district, but in a different school than
Yeah.
this?
Hold on.
Yeah, they may be in very.
Further in my mind, that's right.
Right.
But a lot of it is, I don't know where, they're hiding from.
I don't know that I
I
agree
think
with
there was
that.
a shift in,
I feel like there was
when it comes.
quite
to
a bit of an uproar
Like,
that was put
I
up.
think we came into it.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's not.
Yeah.
But also.
It wasn't.
Unravel. But with the
Appreciate
Kennedy Park neighborhood.
statistically how.
Yeah, it was like
makes sense.
70, I read it.
More sensitive backlash from that.
Okay, you've got about 5 minutes left.
That's fun.
Well, you're right.
It makes a better community.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
There's a way to experience across. district. Yeah, you know, like.
Right. Yeah.
I do think this specific home, because I want that
Started off.
specific. It's more palatable.
Right, but that doesn't mean.
But there's a complexity with that. I feel the same way. It would be nice to have we stay mixed.
Probably because that already exists.
Right,
to
like
some
I
degree.
want my kids to go to.
More people are further from the middle schools. and
Kids
schools.
with more advantages than them, less advantages than them, different from like, that's the whole.
Yeah.
But
So I
it's,
think that's why most of us.
right, but it's really challenging.
One
That
thing
means you can
that
do
I
the
just in the
support
last part of the process, I'm kind of sort of realized.
School.
It has felt
And if there's some official.
just recently, it's felt hard to realize like how
Concentrated population,
how to capture this, like
which I don't
a
love.
little
We also don't have
context I have
Honey.
and how much context. Like also in elementary school, know a lot more about sort of what is driving all of these things than I do. Like I live in the district and my kid will attend the school next year, but I'm pretty out of touch with most of it. And so I feel like I didn't.
7 minutes before it again.
It's
the best we can.
Going to.
7 minutes earlier, it's gonna be an hour and 40 minutes.
I think good part.
Struggle with that. Some schools are like.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and take 1 more minute.
Cause I was, like, I have to go pay attention and like, I'm the whole person or whatever, right? Or like, you know, there's no beat, you know, like they're really talking about what's happening. So it's kind of right, like.
I think the point about limited
Even
resources
if you
is
are a
also
parent, I don't think my
valuable.
parents.
I don't think
right, like,
necessarily that was
so that,
front and foremost as we got started.
Like, I never even got to go inside this.
Mhm.
So I don't know the head and I don't know.
Yeah.
And so it's like, right, like there's just, education is a big thing. And it encompasses so much as a just institutions.
Even
and then, like, understanding like, right, what are the drivers of the levers that
Ability to
affect, that impact.
specialize.
What's happening.
We're all operating in this.
Like
Like for instance.
here, like there's one getting us here.
All of this chatter, but like that's.
Expanded that, you know.
Obviously true. What necessarily
And
that-
almost.
And also like, right, like certain students have different reality.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and finish those thoughts. Now, everybody is going to take their own marker. And what you're going to do is you're going to walk to the other tables. And if you see something that resonates with you on the big sticky, you're just going to put a plus or a check next to it. And that's you as an individual. You're not as your table anymore. So make sure you get to the 3 other tables beyond your own. Again, you're just putting a check or a plus if something resonates with you.
That is exquisite. I could read that upside down from 100 feet away.
You're now like you're kind of. Maybe I should. Maybe.
Is that a plus or an X?
That was a plus. What were the options?
A plus or a check. There's no negatives. There's no, I hate this.
We can't cross it out.
No, okay, plus and check is equal to the
Here,
same
this
thing.
is very.
I didn't know if there was a.
No, I don't.
Do we? From our
Oh, wait,
next
it's-
thing, we like agree with the accuracy of the system. We
Oh, yeah.
learned during this process.
Because I learned this. I mean, I suspected it, but I
No,
learned
but
that.
if you like,
but-
if it just like
This
this
isn't in my
feels
heart.
important to say out loud in the recommendations or the report.
Oh, no.
Yeah, if you have like a reaction,
That's what you're looking for.
thanks.
Like, I
Oh
don't,
my God.
because I don't sweat this, but I underestimated how important that was.
And these are, just to be clear, these are not things that you agree are true. They are things that resonate with you, that you have like a, oh, yes, that felt really important that we learned, or.
I know.
That is okay.
It's sound activated.
That's, I'll be in the replay.
She activated. Like my work.
I think so too. I think so too.
I picked the seat that's off.
Beautiful. And once you get through all three that were not yours, you can head back to your original table.
To figure out what we meant.
Disappointed.
Right sentences, like a lot of the groups. It was very
Yeah,
bullet.
right, yeah.
We need to get in here. You should go around.
Oh, no, I'm good. I can sit here too. I do it to Adam.
Get in there.
Was I gonna skip it?
Oh, no, I'm gonna sit here eventually, but.
Oh, I did jump up.
Wait, what are your earrings? Oh, are just been from Greek myth? It's true.
No, I someone
Learned it, but really cool. Makes me think of like, maybe it would just be.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
like that interpretation.
Yeah, you're smart.
Or pirate.
All right. So I'll know that you're all done when you're back at your table. And Kate, where's? There's a postal reader recycling system that I don't know how it works here.
Actually,
All right. Now I would love if just one person from each table could just give us a summary of what's on their sticky pad and where there was a lot of reinforcement from the group. And this can be very short. This is not anything too complex, but this is to help folks that are watching at home know what we're writing down. Yes, thank you for volunteering, Board Member Lena.
Speak into the microphone.
You do have to
Oh.
speak into the microphone.
It's on. Okay, our group had the most check marks. People are very connected to their school communities. There's general agreement that there is a need to support schools dependent on the need at the school, but difficult to do that with boundaries. School start times came up a lot, and people care a lot about minimizing disruptions.
Beautiful. Excellent modeling. Thank you. Would anyone, that wasn't a joke. I was serious. Thank you, Board Member Lena. Who would like to go next? Okay, I'm going to keep us moving. Annie, go ahead.
Okay, so we had minor changes have huge impacts at the individual level. Our second most popular one was difficulty of meeting multiple priorities simultaneously. The one that got the most support was the realization of how economically segregated Portland is by residents, and then also some support for our learning that community feedback earlier could be better for the process.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. How about this table right here?
It looks like we have
really just one standout on our sheet here, and it's that there's a limit to what can be accomplished by just looking at boundaries.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for that. And last table over here.
Um,
You can move the base too if you need to.
The ones on ours that got the most indications were sort of like the capacity at each school, just learning about how that varies across the district. Again, as a previous group said, the different things that you can accomplish with boundaries versus policy. And I think those were the main ones that really got other people's attention. There's also learning about different resources or special things that are available only at certain schools throughout the district.
Beautiful. Is there anything else that's come into anybody's mind that wasn't captured that they want to say out loud just so that we have it on record and can get it into the final recommendations? Yeah, Board Member Lena, if you can do it in the microphone. Thank you.
Yeah, this is just from Ariel's group. I checked out that box because I thought it was about like this certain utilization of spaces in particular schools that had to do with specials or lunch or things like that. So that was interesting to me. And I wanted to point that out because it's a facilities piece that has to do with boundaries.
Thank you, Board Member Lena. So what I'm going to ask you to do is one person in your group to take the big sticky off, and you're going to come and bring it up here onto this table, and you're going to change me for a set of boundaries that you already have.
No. Wow.
Okay, yes.
Perfect.
There doesn't, but we can share.
We have plenty here. You both have that.
One more for Ryan.
The color copy, we've got them.
And Superintendent Scott, are you okay to walk us through these boundaries? Thank you. You have, yeah, the newest one.
30 years in, right?
All in it. Oh, yeah. Excuse me. You will articulate.
We can send her a note. See her in 5 years. Yeah.
See you in 5 years.
All right. So Superintendent Scallon is now going to walk us through. If folks remember from the last meeting, there was a general consensus around kind of moving away from the last set of full boundaries that we had and looking at a much more pared down version of elementary, like one looking at just like a cleaned up elementary map, and then having a middle school set of boundaries that was aligned to that, and then a second set of boundaries for elementary school with some additions from Damon, and then that second map of middle schools being aligned to that. So we have 4 maps to look at tonight. And Superintendent Scallon, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So I'm going to do it briefly because we're used to, I think, looking at maps, and so we'll walk through this quickly. The first map that you have in the packet is what I'm going to call the cleaned up elementary. And so it is really doing things like addressing sort of squiggly lines in the old map, a couple of islands, and actually a lot of it is spaces where you see the hatch mark is actually where nobody lives. And so that's this first one. And if you turn to the third page, you will see that these cleanup changes impact a total of 7 students. And so that's what it would do. 7 students is probably a number, especially with the cleanup, where we could, based on implementation, not actually have it impact them. So there's probably an implementation piece there that we could handle at the school level.
A waiver process or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. The sort of thing that if the individual who's impacted may ask to just stay at their school, and it's close enough to the current boundary, current bus route that we could probably figure that out. Correct. Again, I don't want to like, if somebody in the 7 is watching and they have a sibling, I think it's small enough that we could problem solve in all of those cases. The maps when we did it for middle school is we followed the general principle that had come up with the middle schools around cleaning up the number of elementaries that get split and where they go. And so this is basically applying that same logic of having Talbot go fully to Lincoln, East End go fully to Moore, but with just the slightly cleaned up elementary boundaries. Good evening, Boyd. And so the key here, though.
Wait, there's a question.
Quick question. So based on this map, how many schools would be split? How many elementary schools would be splitting?
I believe it's the same number that it was when we looked at it last week, which I may need a little bit of help because I don't have that chart in front of me again, but I believe it's Row, it is Ocean Ave, and it is Lincoln. Not Lincoln, sorry, Longfellow that gets split. The piece that I just want to highlight here, because what was on everybody's paper was around minimizing impact. These changes would impact 174 families. Still has some of the challenges that we talked about with certain neighborhoods, access to health clinics, and that. And so one thing that maybe the committee wants to think about, if I can make this suggestion, is it could be that you do something like the cleaned up elementary boundaries, but then maintain our current middle school boundaries with just like small cleanup to match with the new. So like it doesn't mean that you have to do both the elementary and the middle, but those are the maps. The third is what I'm going to call the cleaned up elementary version plus some small enhancements. These enhancements were discussed in the November 13th meeting. And I mean, you can see them on the map, right? So that neighborhood moving from Row to Reiki, that is very close to the highway there. You have second, sort of a balancing of that. You have a part of Reiki moving to East End. And then you have that northern section getting added to Longfellow from Talbot. If you were to turn to that third chart, you would see that doing the cleanup plus enhancement impacts 61 families. So it is more of an impact. Let me pause there. Is there anything anybody wants to add about that map just on a factual end?
What do you mean, like suggestions or?
Not suggestions, but is there any additional context that folks want to add that made the suggestion last week about looking at these areas? And that's not a push for anybody, but I'm just checking.
You could say that the reason
Yeah, see if you can get to them.
Well, the reason I suggested looking at these two changes was because we had some people from the public ask us to include them more, and there seemed to be more support for looking at them than for some of the other changes, which we didn't see a lot of support for and had dropped. And I'll say I'm open to including these or not based on some of this discussion we have here, and then I think the board should look at final input and make a decision based on that. But I think they're worth looking at least, and considering today.
Other questions? Yeah, Priscilla, could you, I know, yes, if you could use the microphone.
Well, I just wanted to say that that section of the Warren Ave going to Longfellow, in my opinion, does address a lot of our safety components as well, because that bus stop that we have there with multiple intersections, that's very worrying. And going to Longfellow, I believe that kind of helps as well. But so I really, yeah, going from Talbot to Longfellow, I think that makes sense. The other point that I wanted to make is what is this on St. John's, the bottom here? The Libby town is that the only piece that I'm a little concerned about going to Reiki, but yeah.
Thank you, Priscilla. Other questions?
Yeah, just a clarifying question. Looking at the difference for Reiki between the two maps. Oh, sorry. There's the Libby Town, which would take 20 students from Row or 22 students from Row and send them to Reiki. And then looking at the map on the Ocean Ave versus Reiki boundary, it seems like there's just like this tiny little area that captures 22 kids. And so I'm wondering if anybody has any details on whether that is like a high-rise residence or a Vesta or family shelter or something.
There's no names up the street, but I'm guessing it was Family Shelter, Chestnut Street, because we talked about putting out. But there's no street names on it.
There's 20 students that go from Reiki to Ocean,
Yeah.
and there's 22 students that go from Row to Reiki.
Right. And I'm just trying to figure out, there's like this tiny, it's probably like maybe like 2 blocks or something difference. And I'm just trying to figure out what I'm assuming it's just like 1 or 2 buildings that house families that would be sent from Reiki to Ocean. And just thinking of our conversations about McKinney-Vento students, if that's a lot of McKinney-Vento students, then they should probably stay at Reiki.
I don't think they're currently at Reiki.
I think there might be a mistake here.
Yeah.
when I'm looking
Okay.
at it. The maps are slightly different between the clean it up version
Mm-hmm.
and the
I'm seeing that too.
enhanced version, or whatever we're calling it, the
I think so.
clean up plus version. There's a little pink section on on State Street between
Yeah.
State and I.
Like it's a major road and no one.
In-
Situation, like Ryan was saying, that they were just, has a line, I can't. really-
Yeah, but then it would be the same on the other scenario.
Yeah, and
Can-
20 students. It just, so really the clean it up plus.
That's between,
I don't think
between High and Forest. That's like where the Y is.
Yeah.
I don't think those 20.
Can anybody hear me? Sorry, this is McKay online. Can you hear me?
Hey!
Hey, you're here. I'm sorry. I didn't know.
No,
Yes.
I'm so sorry. And my voice is gone, so I apologize. I just wanted to help clear that up. That was the 3 pieces, the enhanced version. It does include, there's in the school year 24-25, which we are still working off of for our base year, there were those students living right there between Forest Ave, north of Cumberland, and east of 77. It's literally 1 block. And that moving those students to Ocean Ave from Reiki was meant to be a counter to those students moving from Row to Reiki.
Got
So
it.
it was supposed to counterbalance because we didn't want to put too many kids into Reiki with the move from the Row piece to Reiki. And so those students were moved up to Ocean Ave in this enhanced version.
Thoughts about that? Or Superintendent, did you have a?
Well, I was just going to say that if I can do the last map and then we go back to the discussion, because I think, I think this is what the committee needs to wrestle with, right? Is which is the preferred map and if there's any recommended changes. And as you heard, we have McKay in the cloud to help us. It's also still light where she is. So for a couple hours. The last map that you have is, again, just the cleaned up plus enhanced, maintaining the same idea around feeding to 3 schools. And so I will share with you that I did get some feedback actually at a parent meeting the other day that talked actually about where Priscilla was just talking in terms of safety, and felt like, because it was actually one of the families there, that from a safety end, it is a helpful map. On the flip side, their child just started at the other middle school, and so would be shifting in this, and so it get back to that impact piece.
But that's gonna be for any, I mean.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that can't be the only consideration.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not actually suggesting just that alone, but I was just echoing that Priscilla's piece around the safety with the buses there was there. So
Can I ask a question about this last map?
Yeah.
What's the difference between middle school scenario 9 and 10? Because they're impacting exactly the same number of kids, and I can't visually see any differences on the maps.
There are no differences on the middle school. It's just to show you what the overlay would be with
Oh,
elementary 9 and elementary 10 in the dotted line.
yeah, so you can see the purple. Yep,
okay.
that's it.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Superintendent, could you talk about, like, it sounds like 7 we could accommodate with a waiver process or something else. 61, can we accommodate a waiver process?
I think we'd have to look at the individual circumstances, because, I mean, Chair, that's really a question in some ways to the school board around budget implications, because 7 likely will not impact really class size. They're spread out across grades, across 2 or 3 schools. 61, you could deal with a change of a class or adding a cohort. But I mean, again, they're not significant changes. So when it comes to transportation, it's likely not very hard. It is more just a question around enrollment, to which, again, we have enough time that if folks felt like this was the right direction to go, we could figure out if it's a next year or 2-year piece to do that.
Yeah. Other thoughts or questions? I think I'm just want to name a tension that I've continued to feel in the last couple of meetings, that and I've heard from people in the community too, is that it's like, it's just hard to like land on something when we don't know what the implementation model could look like. And I think we can't. So I just want to name that is a tension that we have to deal with as a committee. Yeah, go ahead.
If I can, just a little bit more on that, just looking at the chart, that's the second to last chart of the elementary school. So scenario 10 impact.
Elementary or middle?
Elementary.
Okay.
If this is the one that shows the 61 students impacted, the 2 places that have the biggest swings are at Ocean and Reiki and Rowe. And when you think about it, in some ways, they're offsetting for Reiki, as McKay shared. And so just like looking at this visually tells me it's probably easier to accommodate. And it's going to be a question for just Ocean really about absorbing 20 students more than anything else. Because the other changes, 15 to Longfellow, we could accommodate. 4 to Presumpscot, we could accommodate. 20 to Ocean, we could probably accommodate. And Reiki's a net balance. So yeah, I think we could.
Thank you. That's helpful. Other thoughts, questions? Yes, Dr. Warren.
I just, as I'm looking at that chart, that Superintendent Scallon was just talking about, and the potential add of 20, am I reading that right, to Ocean? It's another one of these chicken and egg challenges, but now we're getting deeper into our sort of pre-K planning and trying to figure out the CDS transition. And I feel like my one concern about this would be that it would potentially limit some of our options in terms of adding pre-K there. It's the one elementary school that does not currently have any pre-K classrooms.
Yeah, the thing I would just add to that, when you talk about if you moved forward with this, right? What we'd be talking about is a waiver where students would stay at their current school. So the impact would actually really be more on Reiki on them staying. I think also like we're early enough on this that we could play out a scenario that is a couple years and look at that around early childhood too. So, I don't think that has to be the barrier. It's certainly a factor. Specialized programs is a factor within all of this. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that we could also, within this next body of work that we're getting ready to do, have a recommendation that would say an implementation plan that impacts the least amount of students possible. We could give that directive as part of our recommendation. Yeah, go ahead, Priscilla.
One last thing about what Ryan just said. So my concern is that by keeping the Levittown to Reiki, which is an extra 22 students, and then if we're giving the waiver option to that additional 20, let's say if they all decide to go to Reiki, that could be another 40 students at Reiki on a school that is already in the high end. So that's my only concern about the Levittown going to Reiki and not to another school.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. And I think that, again, I don't have a stake in this either way. Like we can make it work. I think you're right, Priscilla. I think the question would be that if we put in this year numbers into it and had conversations with the families to get a sense of whether they would want the waiver or not, we could then say, let's consider this a 2-year thing, a 1-year thing, or what other options there are. So like, the more we're like Gumby on this in terms of implementation, the easier it'll be.
Do you want to tell people who Gumby is in case they don't know?
No, they should just know, or they can look it up.
I think I'm almost exactly in the middle age of this group. So I'm going to assume that most people know Gumby.
Is there an option where we do a version of this map where Libbytown does not get sent to Reiki, but that little finger gets sent to Ocean?
Yes, that's up to us. So that is like, yeah, but
there's no map.
Yeah, there's no map. But I think because we're now, oh, McKay?
I'm making it right now, so I will email it to you as soon as it's done.
Thanks.
Or if thinking about what Sarah was saying about Ocean, that would be more student to Ocean. So the idea of sending that whole strip to Longfellow, I don't know if that would be too many for Longfellow, but you see what I'm saying, Libbytown, and what's on top of Libby, is that the park. I think that's
Douglas Street.
Douglas
Yeah,
Street.
I think we did a scenario with that.
I think we did
It
too.
would be
I would
just
say, I do live right there.
Yeah, get a mic.
I do think that creates some neighborhood cohesion issues if we were to split at Douglas Street. Or
Okay.
the kids in the building that was just built for affordable housing would go to a different school than the kids across the street would, I think, create some issues. With neighborhood cohesion, it makes sense probably from a utilization point of view, but then drilling down, I think that, I mean, it might be honestly better to leave Reiki boundaries well enough alone and not send the additional students to Ocean and just look at a scenario that's just the enhanced plus I think this during triangle that we talked about, that I still haven't heard anyone really say that they don't want to do that one. I think, I don't know, it just seems like that one's rising to the top.
Which one?
But
You're in the
Are we
hearing.
suggestions yet, or are we still a question?
Yeah.
No, I think we are moving into suggestions now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my one suggestion is to keep the part of, right, I think do as little to Reiki as possible, and then add that tail from the scenario 10 to Longfellow to increase the number of kids there and to deal with the transportation challenge that exists, that little square rhombus.
The State Street tail?
No,
No.
the north one, the Warren Ave,
Herring triangle.
the Norring Ave
Oh,
during triangle
yep,
piece.
yep.
For sure, keep that, and then yeah, my suggestion would be to like keep Libbytown with Row, as best we can. Yeah.
So am I hearing correctly that kind of echoed what Damon just said?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm just trying to understand where the pockets of cohesion are. So I just wanted to make sure I was hearing it correctly.
And just for clarification.
Yeah.
Does this numbers already include the predictions of the new housing complex?
Well,
Because that's all in the Row neighborhood, right?
there's the chart in the top left corner.
Right.
That's what I was gonna start referencing, that we have two schools, the utilization is projected to drop pretty significantly, that's Ocean and Reiki. Row is projected to go up.
Mhm.
So in my mind, if we're gonna, I'd rather not move people into Row now and try to keep them. Again, I shouldn't say, that's not just one factor. If we're trying to do this to last more than 5 minutes, that we should be looking at some of those utilization numbers from when moving.
I think that's a good point. And just to also note that Longfellow's utilization is projected to go down 5 percentage points, and that's already our lowest utilized school.
I was going to echo what Kate said about Row's projection, and the geography of that area near the interstate is closer to Reiki. And so I would caution against removing that from the recommendation because it does make sense geographically. And
When you're actually
regard.
down there, though, like the kids have to walk up along Congress Street.
Oh yeah, I know. I understand. But it just like distance wise, if they're provided a bus, because I think that Dr. Warren, doesn't the transportation department provide busing if there's like a hazard zone, even if it's closer distance wise?
Yes, although one of the things that we're trying to look at as part of the transportation strategy is how we can potentially reduce some of the hazard zones.
Okay.
And because it's complex, but the more we have to bus students, the more drivers and buses we need, right? So where we can potentially eliminate hazard zones and add crossing guards, for example, and have more walking, we would love to be able to do that. But where we need to do it, we do it.
I guess I might add that I think maybe we could, in our recommendation, have something about a utilization maximum that if a school gets to a certain point, that section would make sense too, because it is so far geographically from Row. If the projections do go in the direction that we are predicting them to be, that would come back in 5 years. I think that might be fair.
Lauren?
Right. And I think too, like current climate, right? Like things could definitely change. That's not just like what's zoning potentials, but I wonder too, can we add to that maybe like if there's some zones of like some Gumby zones that might exist that like when they get to a certain utilization that we just reassess, because then that way we have an idea of maybe where the flexibility is.
So what would be a good utilization number?
So we're actually going to have small groups to work on that exact problem, but we can 100% bake it into our recommendations. So I think that I'm hearing a little bit of consensus that if we're able to have that kind of recommendation, that we might be close to a consensus on the elementary maps. Damon, I'm going to look at you to say it again because yes.
Yeah, I'd say
If you couldn't say it into the microphone,
yeah,
please.
sorry. I guess I think that sounds good if there's some, maybe we build some of the balance into the recommendation for next time or for the next boundary committee to highlight. I don't know, I guess the question is it possible to change a boundary outside of a boundary committee?
It would be up to the board. They would
So we
have
could
to
make a recommendation to the board, maybe that particular piece in Libbytown be moved to Reiki if Row gets to a certain utilization. I think that would be good. It would give a long runway for potential change to give people some notice. But
I do think that the development at the Barron Center was still kind of like on it wasn't a full yes when we were bringing those numbers in here. And if that does get to a full yes, I think that will change numbers at row significantly. So, and also last night at the District 2 city meeting, there were two counselors talking about potential changes in the zoning ordinance that could come up in the next couple of years too. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I believe there's a development going up in Stroudwater presently. Condos, something. You might know, Damon. I don't know.
Stroudwater Crossing.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I think that was on the list, but I know the Barron one was still on the edge.
Could our recommendations have triggers both at utilization max and min?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So I am hearing right now that there is, if we can put in a recommendation around the thresholds around utilization, that scenario 10 for elementary schools minus the Libbytown triangle is what we feel like we should move forward with.
Yeah.
What were we doing with the 20 kids that were getting moved to Ocean to offset the kids who were getting added to Reiki from Libbytown?
A very good question. Does anyone remember the answer? Not do that one.
Essentially leave right boundaries more or less as they are with clean it up, just cleaned up.
Leaving Reiki's boundaries just as they are, just cleaning them up. Annie, thoughts?
I could see an argument both ways.
Which way would you like to argue for, though?
I think probably, well, Damon, you might know the answer to this. Are we ever gonna build housing in that like little like no man's land section being sent to Ocean that currently is mostly parking lots down by the Whole Foods?
The Bayside property?
Yeah.
Possibly. Is that in the East End district now, though?
Yeah. It's in the Bayside area.
Yeah.
But I think McKay's
But it's-
talking about as far as like, it's the type of housing too, as far as, because we have a lot of building in East End and no kids are moving in there.
Right.
It depends on the size of the housing, the price point, et cetera. So
Yeah.
it's hard to know.
Because that little finger that I like to call it, it is they have to cross Cumberland and Congress Street, it looks like, which are, or sorry, Cumberland and High Street, which are both unpleasant streets to cross. And I don't know if they have crossing guards there right now. So I could see a safety argument for sending them to Ocean. And if there were housing to come up that had kids in that area, then it would make sense to keep them with kids in that neighborhood.
I would guess that housing will not be there
Okay.
within 5 years of,
Okay.
and we would
Then
be
I say
doing
leave
these
it.
boundaries
Leave
again.
them at Reiki.
I think they're at East End right now.
No, they're at Reiki right now.
The Midtown development.
Which finger are you referring to, Annie?
Yeah.
I know.
It looks like it could go to Ocean, if anything.
Right, but they're at Reiki right now, but they're
They're going
supposed
to
to go to Ocean.
You're talking about the finger that
20
is on State Street.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, to offset Libbytown. Yes.
Okay.
I'm saying let's leave them at Reiki.
Yeah.
That surprises me.
I look to you for guidance.
It seems like when you flip between 9 and 10, if the committee's desire is to maintain the Reiki and row and have a tipping point if row gets to X percent, right, capacity, it seems like one of the questions is if row gets there, do we offset what moves to Reiki, right? So isn't that, I think, is one of the questions, is so do we only move that Libby Town part or do we offset it? And then the second piece that's the difference between 9 and 10 seems to be what I'm going to call the top hat of Longfellow. Because I think the other question is the committee's desire to add the top hat or not?
That's Warren Ave, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Kate has had her hand up. Let's let Kate get in here. And if you can get to the microphone, Kate, that would be great.
Yeah, a couple of things. I think I'm uncomfortable with what people are talking about as like a trigger scenario. That feels messy to me. And it feels like it puts potentially the board and the schools in a difficult position. They're not going to have this whole map to look at. It's going to be like row triggered. And so we're going to move this little section, but it's quite possible that other things have also happened. So that makes, I don't think I would be supportive of that conceptually. I think we should make a decision about what we think the best scenario is now. And maybe the recommendation is for earlier review of boundaries or something like that. But having a trigger and just doing it for one school feels like it would be incredibly hard for the school to do. I think I'm okay with the cap, the Longfellow sort of cap to, is that way? Yeah, Talbot to, I would leave the rest of it alone for now.
Which one, 9 or 10?
Oh, sorry. I think 10. I would do the Longfellow cap and I would not do anything with Row and Reiki. I'm trying to, I guess it feels like we're struggling to figure out what to do. It's so few number of kids. Like what are we getting for that?
Right.
Which is, I go back to that sort of larger conversation we had last time. And I'm not clear on what the benefit is. So if I can't articulate the benefit, it feels like maybe not do it.
So Kate, if I'm hearing you right, you would be advocating for scenario 9 plus a Longfellow cap.
Yes.
Can I just answer Kate's question? I mean, I think the idea for some of it is to anticipate growth and
Yeah,
to not
fair.
put us in a situation where we're
Absolutely.
then,
Yeah, and that is very fair. And I think in that, and that's where I'm struggling. I think if then we decided that looking at what Row's anticipated bump is, which is big,
Yep.
that we move over Libby Town and I would leave the finger at Reiki. I just think it's too few kids. It sounds like it's disruptive to have them. Anyway, yeah, I could see that it's trying to solve for that hop between 69.6 now and 78.1 in 4 years, which is
well, I think it's 73% currently at Row. But if you,
That's 70% currently.
no, it's 73% currently.
Oh, sorry, this is based
Yeah,
on.
I know, it's confusing going back
Wait,
and
how
forth.
are, neither
If-
of these maps are what we currently have, right?
This one is for Row because Row doesn't change in map number 9.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so that utilization for SY 2024 is 73%. If nothing changes in 5 years, it's predicted to be 82%. But if we did go with that change of moving those homes to the Reiki district in 5 years, Row will be at 78%, which is still larger than it currently is.
I would just say let's like if it hits a certain level, let's redo the boundaries again and not stipulate which area goes to which school, because as Kate was pointing out, like we don't know what will be happening at the other schools. And I mean, projections at such a small city level are notoriously uncertain. And so I know that on the tables now, it looks like it would make sense to send a certain area from Row to Reiki because Reiki is expected to decline. But I don't think we know that for sure. And thus, I would just say, let's leave it open. Maybe Talbot decreases a lot. Maybe Longfellow is still very low.
I mean, I think the sort of tension between what Kate was initially saying of like, let's leave things where they are, and what Maya was saying about we're trying to somewhat plan for the future is just that, you know, frankly, just speaking for myself, I think there hasn't been a lot of appetite, I guess, within the community from what we've heard for really making much change. But I think that it is going to be needed. And so we can either sort of anticipate it, like as a city, which is what we sort of have tried to do here, or we can kind of be responsive to it in 5 years, which I think is sort of where the prevailing winds are. And so hopefully, you know, to the extent that we're really kind of putting off any significant changes, the work we've done now will have helped kind of lay the groundwork for the city to be more ready for something like that. But yeah, I don't know. It just felt useful to name that, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. Other thoughts? Yeah, Priscilla.
So I am, to be very honest, in the fence about all the work because I hear all sides about not rely on predictions, but some of the predictions I know for sure it's happening, such as in the rural neighborhood, it's going to increase. And like the family shelter is going to be probably moving. So there is just so much I think that it's going to happen for that neighborhood that in a way I do think we have to look in the predictions too. So I am very on the fence because I also don't think like for Libby Town, I don't think it should go to Reiki, but I also don't think it should stay a row. So that's why I'm like not sharing my opinion as much.
Build a new elementary school.
So, but Priscilla, I do wonder if though the implementation gets at that tension that you're talking about, like if we were able to find a way to let kids finish where they are, and then anybody new in the neighborhood would move to the next one. I mean, we heard that repeatedly from folks, right?
Yeah,
It's about having to move kids from where they are, and it's less about having to go to a different school if your kid hasn't started there. So like I feel like if we could do something around implementation to take care of that, that maybe that gets at that tension.
We got the next map from McKay in our emails.
Wow. This is magic, isn't it? Thank you, McKay. Yes. I'm not.
Why don't I go on the Zoom?
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, because I'm using my screen in other ways right now. Okay, so given those things, does anyone want to put a suggestion forward on the floor and we can do a fist of 5 and see where we're at? That's okay. That's okay, Kate.
Oh. It does seem consensus on the hat, right? Yeah, the top hat we all said yes to, right? Everyone's for the hat.
The headgear.
It's fall.
Okay, so let's just do a fist of 5 on the hat, okay? So this is on the elementary school boundaries. We don't know anything else about what we're approving, but we do know that we want to include the Longfellow hat, the top hat. So on fist of 5, I'll count to 3 and then put your hands up. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, good job. We just got to consensus on that. Longfellow hat. Yes, Kate.
With the caveat that we will try to allow people to finish in the hat if they're there. However that works.
Yeah.
That implementation, I don't know how many students that.
Right.
I think I guess I'm testing this because I would assume, Kate, that applies both for elementary and middle.
The Longfellow hat or the
The
moving kids?
The moving kids, like if that were to impact, I don't think it would impact.
No, they're all gonna go to, they go to Lincoln either way.
Yeah.
It's 15 elementary.
Okay. So in addition to the Lincoln hat,
Sorry, I just wanted to lean in that hat. It is actually with your current middle school boundaries, the hat actually is zoned to more. They are supposed to, if you look at the middle school scenarios, it has the current attendance areas on the dark black line. And it pops over.
Not used to.
Current attendance.
It used to, and so in the new scenario, yes, yeah. If you look at both the hat in the elementary, that hat in the middle is zoned to more. I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that piece.
It goes to Lincoln.
I live in the hat.
No, it currently goes to more.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're not gonna talk about middle schools right now. We're gonna,
All
yes.
that piece of, Calvin and Lincoln are, is all that we're talking about.
Yeah, we're not gonna go there. We're gonna stay with elementary schools.
Yes.
So in addition to the hat there, what else would people like to put forward? So I'm gonna put forward that we use scenario 9 plus a hat.
That's called scenario 11. It's got.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
thank you, McKay.
Okay, but
Yes. So that is scenario 11. That's just mean we can add on to this. Okay, but this is like the next proposal. So I would like to do yes, Kate, do you have a question before we do Vista 5?
Is that, I'm sorry, can someone explain to me the difference between 11, just in this area, 11 and 9?
11 has the cap on Longfellow. That's it.
Great.
9 does not have the hat.
Yes, I just didn't know around Reiki. It looks the same to me. I want to make sure I'm not missing. something.
Correct. It is
Thank you.
the same.
Okay.
Yeah, the only difference is the cap right now.
Okay, thank you.
So I would be looking for a Vista 5 on the suggestion on the floor, which is scenario 9. Sorry, it is now scenario 11. So 1, 2, yep.
You say that again.
Yes, we're looking to approve what is scenario 11 right now.
Can I ask a question of the group?
Yeah.
Of like
Can you use your microphone?
what feelings would be about sending that one block from Reiki to Ocean? I keep going back and forth in my head and really wish that I could like pull my community right now.
The 20,
The 20,
Finger.
it's on State Street or
yeah,
Bayside?
it's on High Street.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What would you ask them? Just what would be the question? Because I get stuck in like, I get people wanting to vote in things like what currently is on the ground, but this is like for the next decade. So I'm
Right.
just curious, do we see that this has a better long-term outcome? I mean, first I haven't been in education in 30 years. Kids are incredibly resilient.
Yeah.
So do we think like they just won't like it because their children will move? And I think there's some mechanisms there for the board potentially to support that. But do we think the longer outcome is the best outcome for the school and for the community in general? I think that's the piece that I want us to keep coming back to.
Yeah. So what I keep hearing from the Reiki community is one, that we love our community, and 2, that it feels like we have a lot of kids and that are higher needs than other school populations, and that teachers are burnt out. And so if we could send some students to schools that might have more capacity, that would lower the overall effort required by teachers. And so, but then looking at the map, it seems a little bit arbitrary because there's a lot of kids still going to Reiki that are on the other side of High Street. And so I think the only argument here is that these kids also have to cross two streets, two high traffic streets to get to Reiki, whereas then they would maybe take the bus they'd definitely take the bus to go to Ocean. So yes, I think like lowering the student population at Reiki at this specific point in time is always a good thing. But I guess I wonder if this is the right mechanism to do it.
Thank you, Annie. So with that, Annie, do you want to put a suggestion on the floor?
Yeah, I guess I'd love the group to do a fist of five about whether or not that block should go to Ocean.
Thank you. Okay. Superintendent Scallon, could you zoom in again on the map? Just, I want to make sure everybody knows what little strip we're talking about. Yeah, it's in scenario 10.
Okay.
All right, I was just gonna share my screen so we could zoom in.
Oh, perfect.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
So this is a group of about 20 kids.
Yeah.
And can you name the streets like kind of
Yeah.
boundary?
So left side, the one running vertical is High Street.
All right.
And then the other boundary is Cumberland Ave.
That's Forest. That's Forest.
No, the
Top or the bottom.
horizontal. So those are the streets that kids would cross to get to Reiki. And both of them are high traffic streets, especially on that corner.
So, I mean, I could pull out my computer and look at where the guards are right now. But that's kind of irrelevant because we're going to we are re-examining where all the crossing guards are, where all the hazard zones are. And so we always have the potential to move around and add guards. There are actually a lot of crossing guards right now in the Reiki neighborhood, more than we even need based on the surveys we've been doing. So I wouldn't be inclined to have folks make a decision based on that. I actually think that the, potentially harder thing is that you've got 20 kids you then have to bus out to Ocean, because that clearly would be a bus, and that they're not going to walk there.
And I also think that some of what Annie said, it has also to do with allocation of resources that could be fixed this way with policy and budget rather than moving the boundaries maybe.
So
I do wanted to bring it, I keep bringing this up, the predictions, and I'm not really a prediction person, but the row does concern me. And then I was just right now paying attention at the LICET numbers are actually pretty high too, right? And we haven't been talking a lot about that area, but the numbers are high, and the predictions is that it's going to be higher, even higher. So just make sure that we put some attention into that area as well.
Point on that is, I don't know, to me, I'm thinking, and maybe we'll get to this later, but maybe there should be some kind of trigger. Let's say it's 90% utilization at any school, then we form another boundary committee. Maybe that takes the pressure off the board, because I think it's a very good point people have made that other things will move around. We do have affordable housing developments being built, and hopefully there will be more of them. And maybe they all get built in one district or something like that. And then we look at, okay, then we need to move things around. We can't predict exactly where that's going to be, but we do know that there are some utilization thresholds we really don't want to exceed. So maybe that would be something to consider as we get to the next step, as we think about what we're going to do now, and then what will be recommended for the future.
To build on that, I guess, I mean, this is, I think, essentially what I said before, but I just want to recognize that if any of our schools get to 90% utilization, they're already going to be in a pain point. Like, I don't,
I think it could be lower.
yeah.
I was just trying to make.
Yes.
This is, extreme number.
But I,
Maybe it's 80.
but I think you're right to like think about instead of just like one school, which was the concern that Kate brought up, that if any of our schools reach that number, it triggers the process that could be under 5 years or, So let's go back though to the boundaries. We are right now at scenario 11, which I think we did we do a fist of 5 on scenario 11? No, we didn't get to that. Okay, so let's do that and just see where we are. So this does not have the Reiki finger on this. This is just scenario 9 plus the cap. Yes, or Libbytown, right? So on the count of 3, and again, we can make a suggestion after this to add or subtract something, but let's see if we can get consensus around this. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. We've got, oh, thank you. Okay. So we got a 3. Okay, so Maya, can you talk about why you are a 1 and what could make you go to change?
Yeah, I just think it's unwise to ignore the utilization growth that's known to be present for Roe. I understand what Annie has said about like Reiki is also in a tough spot in terms of utilization presently. So it's a tricky thing because it's not a clear, like, I don't think it makes sense to approve the boundaries the way that they're presented in this map without
Do you
removing
have a
section.
suggestion to add or subtract to make that happen?
I would like to see the Libbytown area at Roe be moved. I mean, Reiki was the suggestion. I'm not sure if the committee had another suggestion.
Can anyone remind me, because I'm guessing we talked about this, why we're not taking some more, sending some more kids from Road to Longfellow, extending the boundary of Longfellow south?
That's what I was saying. I think initially was like from ED, like, right. When we were looking at it before, it was more just like, it's not as economically disadvantaged to steal from Rosemont.
So it would be helping with utilization, not
with
ED.
Yeah.
Well,
Say that again.
The lunch situation.
And that
small.
they're cap at
Cafeteria.
Whatever.
cap at 3.
Do you, Superintendent Scowen, do you know what utilization percentage Longfellow could get to and still be able to accommodate their lunch situation?
I mean, at one point they had 300, not that long ago. Talking to the principal there, it sounds like 280, 300 feels hard. But yeah.
There was a previous scenario.
So right now there's 239. Yeah.
There was a scenario that McKay has done that I think had them at 300 or 302, and it was like still in the 70s, like low 70s.
Yeah.
I think it was like 8 or 7 or something like that.
The utilization there is really misleading because the classrooms, they're okay. It's really that they, unlike any of the other elementary schools, only have one large space. So the cafeteria and the gym are the same. And so and it's not a huge one. And so when they run lunch for 3 periods, they can't do gym. That's the rub.
Is that the kind of, I mean, okay, this is probably a really outside the box idea, but is that the kind of thing that could maybe be somewhat addressed with policy? Like, can they use Lincoln's gym for gym?
Probably not. I would say I appreciate the outside the box thinking, but that might be too far out.
I didn't have gym in elementary school.
That's what we'll do. We'll just cancel gym. That'll win us. So McKay, I'm curious. So just to make sure you're tracking with us. So we're looking at scenario 11 and we're trying to figure out how to get Rose utilization down a little bit.
Yes, and so I did want to, I know that this piece was the piece that we were talking about to help with that. I do want to mention that, and again, it is a prediction, it is a forecast, but Reiki's numbers are expected to decrease in the same trend as Rose numbers are expected to increase. And so I did just want to mention that because I do think that if those predictions hold, that might be something that we could look at closer. I have not had a chance to run the forecast for this year because we just received student data recently. But I wanted to mention that this year you've had a pretty you've had a larger decline in enrolled population than our model was predicting. And so I did want to just share that as another data piece for you all that the predictions, if anything, might be more rosy than what we have in the forecast from school year base year 24-25. But I'm happy to look at areas here or here moving into Longfellow. There's quite a few students here, and these are long study areas. If we zoom in here, these are, you can see there's not really great ways to potentially keep neighborhoods together and move them to the north, just because these blocks are so long. So I did want to put that as, this could potentially, like north of Elizabeth Road, could be an area where you might consider. I'm just putting out, where the populations are. And if you were concerned with Row, there would be a potential there, and then the potential where we were talking here. Does that
Thank you,
help?
McKay. Yes.
Yeah. One other thing I'd like to say is that the policy committee of the board is starting to look at a policy around class sizes and class demographic needs and staffing. Portland currently does not have a policy that pertains to class size, so it's something that there's great interest for. There's a lot of support from staff to have something like this, and it's something we're taking super seriously. And figuring out a formula to give more resources to schools and or classrooms that need more resources. So whether it would be, a cap on the class size or a formula that calculates the demographics of the class makeup that gives resources dependent on that. So that is something that is happening. And I have a lot of hope and excitement about that policy prospect.
I'm really, really excited about that. And I was chatting with our lead teachers earlier today, and they're also excited about the class size reduction, but they are concerned where students will go because that will mean that they will need more classrooms. And we are, I think, the second highest capacity school right now. And yes, we might go down, but not so much that I think it would offset how that policy would impact us. So I think for me, I'm a broken record now, but I think to me that still means that we should consider some way to send people to Longfellow, which is the lowest capacity school, and even with the predictions considered still substantially lower than other schools.
That was my question for McKay. I wonder if there's like to the left. I know we're getting closer to Row, but I can't see close enough. I don't how the streets connect, but is there a way of taking more to the left of Longfellow District that's in Row? And then Damon, you might have a better idea since you live in the neighborhood, but like it's not contiguous, but like that little sliver on the other side of the Kiwanis Pool to get that Libbytown people to go to Longfellow, like, right, but like, it's just a street, but like to get us to like Libby that then goes to Longfellow
It
too.
would be like a connector.
Like a little connector, yeah, like use, what is that, not St. John, what's that street?
Yeah.
Douglas as like the
Like that,
connector
yeah.
Well, there are people who live in that area now.
on Douglas, yeah, but like,
And on the other side of Douglas now, they built the.
oh, the housing, right, like could that be,
Really on St.
that's what I'm thinking of. Like, is that a possibility?
Like that?
Yeah,
Except that, the study area on the lower left that you just added should probably not, since those kids just got added to Grove.
That's the Dowdy.
On Doherty.
Doherty.
Yeah, Doherty Common.
Yeah.
Can someone say that again to McKay?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so that study area on the lower left down, I guess like, nope, at Doherty Field, it's to the,
On the right.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yep, you just put yep, that one. That shouldn't, because that's a new housing development that just got added to Row. And it would create neighborhood contiguity issues, I guess. Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, I would leave,
Can you do the other side, like the other side of the pool, right? Like,
yeah.
that's what I was thinking, like just excise that to get us to Libby. Then have Longfellow take over.
The other question I just asked
That's right.
Damon is, I wonder if in the projections for Row, if a development at Thompson's Point is part of the projection growth, because that's kind of a little bit further south. No one lives there right now. It is close to that Libbytown area. It's near the bus station.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just don't know if that was added to the growth.
Ooh, sorry. Yes, it was considered.
It was added.
Lauren, did what you asked for happen?
Yes, but I don't know what that means for numbers. I can't read it. But also with like people who live in closer to that area, to see if that makes.
I will say, the people who I have talked to that live in that area that we're looking at wanted to go to Reiki because it made a lot more sense from a transportation point of view.
Yeah.
And that's why they asked for that. And if you're going to split Libbytown up, I mean, it does make sense to have the split at 295. Otherwise, you're really breaking up the neighborhood. But it kind of has two halves right now. So, I mean, if you wanted to send that half to Reiki versus Longfellow, I guess I don't have that strong feelings about it from a point of view of it being a split, but from the point of view of transportation, it makes more sense to go to Reiki. And but yeah, so I do think adding the students to Longfellow makes sense from a equity and utilization point of view, though. So, but plus I could see it going either way. I could get behind it, I guess, if other people like it.
Transportation
Can Rob
wise.
get in here?
I just want to add that I think the neighborhood, I guess, directly to the west of Longfellow, off of Ludlow, I think that's sort of a logical shift if you're just
Yeah.
trying to move population from Row to Longfellow.
Yeah.
I think it's actually even more walkable, and
Yep.
accessible to Longfellow than it is to Row.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think
As
as
opposed to the Libbytown switch.
And then leave Lilytown to grow.
It's equidistant to both Row and Longfellow.
Yeah,
They just get enough kids.
it's like a maze of streets back there.
That's my neighborhood. I mean, I don't live in the maze, but
Yeah.
I live adjacent. to
What
the
what
maze.
does that do if we add that to Longfellow?
So it's.
Hold on one second. I'm adding it in now. Did you want Ludlow Terrace? These,
Yeah.
both of these, is that correct?
Because that is very much its own neighborhood too.
To
That brings Longfellow up to 270.
we go to Brighton.
Yeah, I think let's see
Yeah,
what
go
happens
down
when we
to Brighton
go
there.
all the way to Brighton there.
I think
I grew up on that.
my concern with this, just from a community engagement standpoint, is we have not talked about this being any sort of possibility at any point. So all of the families that live in that neighborhood kind of checked out of the process. And so this would be a real shock to the system.
I think there's quite a few families in that area.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, these three, excuse me, these three blocks here are 30 kids.
And then the numbers are right.
And then McKay, if you go down, that triangle looking one,
Sorry, this one?
no,
South.
south. Yes, that's the word.
Here's the cardinal.
Yeah. South. And now you're going to go west, McKay. Under the places you just highlighted, there's a tract of land there, right there. Yeah. Can we add that to Longfellow?
That's so close to Row.
Brings it up to 296.
I think that's other one good.
I mean, I think that there is like, we could still do like a directed community outreach to this group. I mean, I think regardless of what we change here, we're probably going to hear the same things from people, which is, please don't move my kid. This is going to be really hard on my family. Right. And so I think it's like, if this is the move that we want to make, like if the row piece is important, then we just need to make a decision and then figure out the implementation. I think we can't do both, right? So it's just like, if we want to take into consideration row, which I think is a smart thing to do. I think that moving this part to Longfellow makes more sense than Libbytown and having to bus those kids further. Like, you could still walk that, right? Yeah. Yeah, what is the number change? So it goes up to 296, is that what we said, McKay?
That's correct, 296. I'm kind of looking out at 2029. And there's a lot of aging in place in these neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And so Longfellow is set to decline even with the increase in students here.
Yeah. Is everybody hearing that? And McKay, what does it do with economically disadvantaged?
So I would have to create another map to look at that, but I might be able to I can probably create that while you all
That
continue
whole
to
neighborhood is all
discuss.
single family homes. Yeah.
Yeah, curious just how it affects Row in terms of pure numbers if we make those moves.
So row would go, row would in the near term, it would, if we're looking at the students that we have from, again, it's from base year 2024. But in 2024, they would be at 395 and Longfellow would be at 296. And then going out further, there still is, Row is still going to pick the development up from down here. And so it is still predicted at this point, without having a new forecast, to go up, where Longfellow is set to decline. So it goes up to 80% in the 5-year. And then I believe stabilizes for the 10-year, which is a bit more anecdotal, the 5 to 10-year look.
And do you think we're giving Longfellow too much if they were up to 296?
I think we're getting close.
Yeah.
We're topping. There's another piece that I would just add. And I'm just thinking about what Maya said and around process too. And I think back to something, Chair, you said to me once during like budget process, that you may get to the end of the process and have some additional ideas, but it's hard to add them in at the end because of the community engagement. Like, they're not tested in the same way that some of the others are. So at least the way I think of this is, I'm wondering if there's a recommendation to the board that goes back a step before this, and then there's a secondary that says, consider this, but only after another round of community engagement. Because I worry that it feels like a last minute
yeah.
shift for like actually a fairly high number of people.
It's 42 students in these 4 blocks.
Sorry. I'm just wondering about the rationale for not doing that area in between. I think it looks like there's 2 evergreen cemeteries.
That's the Damon just asked me that. There's the green space, which is the woods, and then there's the part where the actual graves are, where the roads are.
Okay, so there's nothing there.
There's, no living people. No students.
I do think that we need to come to consensus around something here within the next 5 minutes.
I was the holdout. I mean, I think this is a good exercise for us to sort of see. I don't want to reiterate what Ryan said, but I agree with what he just said. So I think I would move to a consensus hand for scenario 11, if we could then have a forcing factor for reconvening a boundaries committee if a school got to a certain utilization. I mean, I think that would make sense.
Yes, yes. And I just want to say out loud, so there seemed to be consensus around like every time there's a census or every 5 years. And if we're using that already, like when we would get to the 2029 numbers, that would trigger. I mean, we have not voted on that, but it doesn't seem like people in this room are like, let's wait 15 years to do this again, right? Like, I think 5 is probably like the longest time that we would be waiting. So I just say that because I think like the process will happen again as Rose starts to top out at those numbers that seem to concern this group.
And the other point, is that I completely hear the concern about space with class sizes, but one of the things too could not necessarily be dividing large classes, but adding in another educator into the room so the ratios are smaller. So I think there's workarounds to that. So that's
yeah.
If I could throw an idea out here too, I think what Maya brought up about Thompson's Point is a good idea. I wonder if we can draw a boundary that would put that into Reiki, or in the future. That development's not going to be completed for a while, I think, right?
I don't know. But then you will create an island, right?
Well, is there a way to draw it that doesn't create an island, I guess is what I'm asking.
Can we make that though, like the next? Can we your boundary committee?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would vote to like keep making.
It's just a way to maybe take a small amount of pressure off.
I mean, it would maybe be part of like the cleaning up factor because, we have boundaries around the jet port where there's no one that lives there, and that's part of Portland, and it's not drawn in this map, right? So
Easier to do it before they're.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just for instance, when we do that, and it'll probably show that no students are affected if we do it right.
Okay, I see what you're saying, that it's like a preemptive
Yeah, just
move.
to kind of head it off a little bit.
I would, what I would do is because the students live up here, I don't believe that there's any students there, so I would essentially cut this study area to have contiguity between this area and Reiki, if you wanted to do that. There are no kids.
That's just the jail.
In that area.
McKay, could we see that when you cut that study area in half?
Yeah, I actually can't cut the study area on the fly. They are it's part of the forecast, and so if it won't allow me to. But I could make a map that essentially does that. It would cut essentially along the railroad here, and then cut over here south or north of the hospital,
And are
but
you able,
south of County Way.
are you able to tell at all how many people live there? I know you can't
So
capture it
let
with your-
me,
It should be 0.
I'm gonna cluster. It is
But
0. There's no students that
unless
live
they're
in
in the
this
jail.
area.
They're not, hopefully.
That's not a horrible idea. And folks, take breaks as you need them. I am taking our break away because we're running out of time. So, yes, please, Kate.
I think these are all interesting thoughts. I don't think I would be comfortable voting on them. But I think I wondered if we could potentially make a suggested list for the next group that sort of tackles this and say, like, we had concerns about Roe, please look at this area of Longfellow. I mean, they're not obligated to do it, right? Take a look at Thompson's Point. I just think, because we started just with nothing, right? So it might be helpful to the next group to sort of say, we were trying, because my concern is really easing the pressure on Roe. Now that we're talking about it, I'm uncomfortable easing the Roe pressure by going to Reiki, just because of the structure of that school. And I hear from people that the crowding feels different, relative to the capacity number. So I think I would leave it with the Longfellow cap, and maybe we just make a list of suggested, we looked at these things, we weren't ready to do it, but here are some things you might think about as you start.
So would you, Kate, consider, though, if we could make that boundary with 0 current students affected, that would build in potential around that one development? I think
So that one development you're talking about is also, we have to remember, would probably be economically disadvantaged student.
no,
It's not housing.
no.
Okay,
It's
because my concern is adding more.
no, I believe
fewer
it's
already segregated.
high end. I don't know how many affordable units are in it, but it's not.
It was approved before the inclusionary zoning, so I don't know how many. It doesn't have to have any. It's built on a master plan from 2013.
All right.
I found, I mean, if anyone just wants a little more info, 255 unit, 6-story residential building proposed.
That's correct.
Exempt from inclusionary zoning ordinance, which requires 25% to be workforce or affordable.
Yeah, Lauren?
My concern is, again, just to echo Kate, like, we're making truly preemptive plans with there's literally 0 need right now. And I just would rather us add the cap and then kind of push us
Okay.
forward.
I'm gonna bring the
kind of be doing this.
Are you talking
I'm gonna-
about adding the cap and the changes that we made to Longfellow as well, or no?
no,
Just put
No.
some more
going
neighbors.
back to scenario 11.
Scenario
Okay.
11.
So
Flip
I'd
the
like
cap.
to do a fist of 5 on scenario 11, please, again. So on the count of 3, and let's get it back up. McKay, if you could put scenario 11 back up on the
And
screen.
to help here, this is with the trigger for revisiting boundary committee.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Do we have to do it?
No. None of us are up again in 5 years unless you want to be. So remember, this is scenario 9 with a Longfellow cap is what is on the floor right now for a fist of 5. Okay, everybody clear on what we're voting on? So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, that's consensus. I'm going to say that is where we're ending with elementary schools. And I think we need to move to middle schools, but I would like everyone to take a 30-second break and stand up and stretch your body right now. Final count, jazz hands, shake it out.
the day, I loved it. No, not so much.
I looked at the current middle school boundaries, that goes more.
Yeah.
Currently.
It's so weird. Yeah, it does. It
And
just
then
feels
your
like.
map goes too?
You know.
Here, look, I printed it out because I just got,
No.
I felt we got lost. This is what it is.
But I think it's a different size pad, if you will.
But either way, I was gonna go to
Lincoln. But in the. Yeah.
Tim had to color there.
It's just weird though.
That was the.
Which may be a blessing to you.
Some are gonna appreciate your input. I'm serious.
Like these kids now are gonna be.
I love it.
Utilization.
Everybody is so good and engaged. It really helps make a better product. I know.
I thought it was going to be way easier than this.
I know.
Yeah, because over there I'll be going.
Not always, every people I see.
No, I don't know how many current.
I'd say.
I know. Somewhere in the-
I would say we send them the link and we allow.
You guys gonna get to consensus
We
over there
have,
already?
like,
That's fine. I don't mind. I don't mind. Okay, if you can hear me, come back to your table, please. So we're gonna look at middle school boundaries right now, and we have an option to look at what our current boundaries are, or to look at the adjusted boundaries. I will just offer up that I still have a very hard time moving the students that would get healthcare at King to more. And I think I would prefer to start with our current boundaries, but if other people feel very passionate about this, then
We do a consensus
I-
with it.
I also realized that it's a lot of students moving to more, right? So the numbers at more is going to be much higher than the other schools, right?
okay, so I would put out for Fist to 5 to start with our current middle school boundaries for discussion. Yeah, on a so 1, 2, 3. Oh, well,
They are today.
yes, what they are today, not anything in this packet. It's what they are today.
Just to discuss.
To discuss as a like to move from. Bill, I don't see any fingers. I need fingers.
So to discuss the making changes to the current one, or
Just
Yeah.
going up to 3 now. Yeah.
Just start from the existing.
Yeah, to start
the
from.
new.
Okay. That still counts as consensus. So we're gonna start with what our current middle school boundaries are right now. And
Give me just 1 second to pull them up. I'm sorry.
no, that's all right. There's a lot of things in this meeting that they should be in your folder from the very beginning.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so our goal here is to get to consensus on middle school boundaries by 7:30.
Can do it.
That gives us 20 minutes. I think we can do it. And then we're going to work on other recommendations in small groups. After, at the end of this meeting, I'm going to take everything that we've written down and put it into a report that then I will send to the committee to sign off on before it goes to the board. It won't be a vote because it will be inclusive of everything that was named here. But if you have edits, you could send me edits for it.
Anticipation. Very excited.
Okay, McKay, tell us when you're ready.
Okay, I'm almost, so. Oop, I'm not on it. Okay. I am just gonna change the outline of this scenario 11, which you just did the fists of five. Because right now in my computer's freezing. Essentially the color block that you're looking at is your current middle school attendance areas cleaned up to to match your enrollment software. And then I'm going to change this so that you can see a little bit better how the new is essentially the scenario 11 elementary is in the dotted purple line now. And so you can see where I will say that there's very few to no students that are on these like little tail islands. I believe that was done at some point, if you recall back to transportation and cleaning these up. The reason why we had left those in the existing is it's your actual existing. And so there's things that we could definitively clean, down here, if you wanted to start from here. And then this is the outline of Talbot in scenario 11. And this is the outline of Longfellow with that hat there. This is another interesting piece of your current boundaries where you can see these students, these are sorry for the vertigo. These students are on a dead end, and these students are serviced by, this is Highway 9. These students go to King, these students go to Lincoln. And so it's a bit of an odd piece there. So does that help for a kind of overall orientation to what you're looking at?
Sarah, is there a reason you want to start from this map rather than like whichever the first middle school scenario was that just cleaned up all these little bits?
That's a good question. I didn't remember the difference between the two. So
we actually never did. We did a cleaned up version of the elementary, but we never did a cleaned up version of the middle school.
Go ahead, Maya.
I have two suggestions. Is this a time for that? Okay. One is that hat that we just adopted into Longfellow. A suggestion would be to have those students attend Lincoln for middle school and allow any student currently attending more, if they choose to finish their middle school time there. Any new enrolling students enroll at Lincoln. And then the other is in that funny area that McKay was pointing out around Stevens Avenue, Route 9. I know it was suggested in the middle school proposed boundaries to have that whole area go to King, but I was thinking it would make sense to have that whole area go to Lincoln, like both sides of Stevens in that zone. And so then if you're at Bradley Street, then that starts King. That seems a little bit more of like a clean break. So it's like Ivy Street, Wayne, Fairview, Anson, Dirigo. Those are all, well, Dirigo's not, but their other ones are dead ends.
Great. Can we see what that does to our numbers, McKay, with those changes?
I could add one more thing before we look at the numbers. This does create a pocket of Talbot kids that would go to more, but I think it'd be a small percentage. And I think one thing we had talked about was trying to keep Talbot together at Lincoln. So it may be worth adding that chunk on the east side of Forest that goes to Talbot. If you pan north a little bit, you can maybe see it better.
Oh,
I just that one there, we had talked about. It made sense to keep those kids together at the same middle school.
so making a suggestion to move those kids to Lincoln.
And yeah, and maybe it could be the same thing as what Maya was suggesting, we'll see how many kids it is, but maybe they, if they would like to, they could finish at the current middle school.
The question on that is it, does it make sense to move that little pocket to LISA? I don't live around there, so I don't know.
Are we
Like,
going back
in
to, no, back to
elementary, so that we then.
Yeah.
can't,
Yeah, thank
This
you.
is more about keeping the middle school or the elementary cohort together, I guess.
Right,
Yeah.
if they were already going. to-
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I wanted to see if there is a way to view that map the McKay once had that had the elementary schools and middle schools. I'm just very confused to where the elementary schools are right now.
So those are the purpley dashed lines are the elementary school.
Are the
that
elementary
we
bu-
just did. So there's the cap.
So
over-
right now with this map, Longfellow would all be going to Lincoln.
Correct.
Okay.
Which I'll say I think it should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think other people.
So with this map, there's not a lot of schools being split.
Correct.
What about the,
It just goes.
East end.
yeah, what's that little green outside of the Longfellow? Looks like they would go to Moore? Or that, what is that? Or they go to Lincoln? That's
Yeah,
what
they're
it is.
going to Lincoln on this map.
Oh, that's Ocean. Okay.
I think we should probably try to keep those kids together too, if we
Right.
can, or at least not have them go to 3 middle schools.
Silly question. Are we having you reinvent the wheel, McKay? Because I swear you made us a map that minimized splits.
Yes, so,
That's true.
yes, we have made, but now it really depends on what the starting point is from the elementary school. So it's fine to, work through from this perspective of the scenario 11. But yes, we did one that minimized splits based on I believe it was elementary scenario 7, which had the tail for Longfellow. So happy to revisit any of that or reproduce it together here.
That longer have a split, right? Longfellow was one of the 3 schools that had a split. Now would have a split.
Right.
Yep. So that it sounds like the little piece that is the ocean piece that is right there assigned to Lincoln. Can we flip that to more?
Yeah, and I wanted to ask about that piece in specific because this whole triangle piece is the railroad is on the east side. And so happy to move that to more. But I did have a question about that in both Longfellow and in both in the elementary and in the middle, where these students, there's not a lot of students, there's a handful of students, but where they are served better or safer at Moore or Lincoln or Ocean Ave or Longfellow.
Yeah, so we're hearing in the room, McKay, that there's likely not any students or very few in that section you just turned.
Yep. For the locals, that's like where Dina's Cuisine and Papa John's and those places are on Forest Ave.
Good commentary. So, and then all these like weird orange islands, some of those are not where there are kids, right? Or am I making that up?
Some of them, the ones that are down here,
Yeah.
there's very few students or none. Let me try to show you an aggregated version of that. So we can at least kind of look at where there are students. Yes, so there's none in here. There starts to be students when you get up to Belmont.
So let's
Street.
flip those that don't have any students in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, flip to King. And also, I just want to say out loud, I feel okay entertaining these because this has been part of several scenarios that we've looked at. So this doesn't feel in the same category of other things we were looking at. Except for, yes.
And these don't have, these are pieces left over. There are no students in these two as well.
Great.
Is it okay to move those to King?
Yes.
Oh, that would be a split for it would be a split for sorry, Ocean Ave, and a split for, I'm going to turn off some of these layers to make it a little bit more
Yeah, Ocean-
understandable. It
Yeah,
would be a
Ocean
s-
already has a split of 3
Yep.
right now.
Yep.
Does this
And this
go
would
down to
be
2?
a split to 2,
Great.
Moore and King. And then Lincoln would be a split between Lincoln and King, which is currently split as well. It would just be a slightly different split
Row.
with the students in this area.
And what about sending all of East and more?
I think there was a pretty big sentiment from the community, both residents in the Kennedy Park neighborhood and advocates, that that was not a good idea for transportation reasons, for family, not just for the kids getting on buses.
And to help the healthcare piece.
And the healthcare piece, yeah.
Yeah.
Where does that leave the ED numbers?
Yeah, I wonder if we could zoom out and look at the overall.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. McKay, if you could do our overall numbers now.
Oh, yes. Let me clear this. I just wanted, oh, yeah, we can deal with that later. Yes, overall numbers with this piece, turn off the study areas. So you would have, the only split feeders would be Ocean Ave and Row, which are already split. And then the numbers would be 65.2%, 56% for Moore, and 71.7% for King. I can look at what's going to happen in 2029.
Could you zoom in just a little bit more, McKay? Thank you. Oh, a little bit less. Sorry. Oh, okay. It's all right. You just read them to us.
Sorry.
You guys are really laughing at my jokes tonight. I appreciate that.
So King is set under this scenario to increase to 77, Lincoln to around 67, and Moore down to 56 in the 5-year. And then in the long horizon, which again is more anecdotal, we'll wait for this to refresh. You have King going back down to around 75%, Lincoln at 65 or 66, and Moore at 59. Oh.
Could you show us the ED proportions? Not predicted, but what they would be.
Yes, so that's the one where I have to make I would have to have some time to make a new map. So that's going to take me probably 5 to 10 minutes, but I can do that.
Yeah. Well, we can pivot to another activity while you do that, McKay.
Okay, I did have one more question just about the tail end of Moore here where, oh, and I'm sorry, I meant to say 3 splits because East End is still split in this scenario. But this area here, I just wanted, there's no students that live in these areas, and I'd like to move them to clean up just this area. It doesn't affect any students. Is that all right?
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay.
No
Okay,
students
great.
affected.
Would we ever consider sending everything east of Franklin to Moore?
That's
I think
that's
the
Kennedy
health
Park.
clinic is part of the issue.
Okay. But I mean, there's already part of the community being sent to more, so I'm just,
It's more than.
There's the India Street neighborhood, which
Mhm.
is south of Congress Street and east of Franklin. If we wanted to maybe do a compromise, I think we're all kind of looking at these numbers and thinking there's maybe not enough utilization at Moore and too much at King here.
yeah. And those are kids who are coming from high utilized schools for elementary school, going to another high utilized middle school.
Yeah, so if we want to keep a neighborhood together, then India Street. And we haven't heard the same concern about the health clinic for India Street, right? Okay.
But that's Munjoy South, and I think you would have a similar. I just think if it's the health clinic piece, do we expand health clinics? I mean,
Yeah.
because
Let's move the health clinic.
Yeah, because I personally
Recommendation.
have seen a lot of the middle schoolers going to and from school, and I don't see a lot of them walking. They're being bused from that area. And I'd be curious exactly how far it is. It's not that far of a difference. But I do think if it's the health clinic piece, then we expand healthcare for more kids in 2 locations, because I do think that East End in the first scenario at the elementary level, the socioeconomically disadvantaged students were not impacted at all. And I would like to see them as they're moving along to see some of the pros that come out of a redistricting. So I'd be inclined to want to see them move to more, whether we address their concerns, if they're raising concerns around healthcare, that there's a way of addressing that.
King. Dr. Warren?
Yeah, I mean, I agree on the healthcare front. We have actually talked some with Greater Portland Health about potentially trying to expand, and I think they're open to that. I'm not sure that's an immediate possibility for them. But I'm not sure if that should be the deal breaker. For me, the bigger concern is that they won't walk up across 295 and up Washington Ave to get to Moore, but they do have a shot at walking across the peninsula and over to King.
So what we heard from multilingual families is if my child misses the bus, they still have the opportunity to walk. And I think we need to, that is a deal breaker for me. I think I can't override that.
We can't, Metro's not an option
Yeah, to say,
for middle school.
Metro is an option for middle school. That
Yeah.
provides a lot of freedom, so.
Dr. Yeah.
Making assumptions on top of assumptions. And so I would do this irrespective of the Metro question.
Yeah.
Because if you are doing it with that assumption that happens, I don't think that's good.
If I can just add a suggestion here, if we do keep the East End school together and send them to Moore, there's a much better utilization balance between the middle schools. I do wonder if maybe part of the solution is kicking it back a year, maybe, just to allow some of these other ideas to maybe move forward. Something to throw out there.
So like a conditional piece that.
Middle school is for the 28-29 school year or something like that. I don't know. Just a thought.
Meaning like delay implementation.
Possibly.
Do elementary first and then middle.
Or just do it all 1 year later to give people more time.
Yeah.
And give the policies more time.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a scenario where it makes sense to give East End to King, but then do something with Lincoln and Moore, like an Ocean and?
I don't. Yeah. Then you just have Reiki and East End going to King.
McKay, what is your status? No pressure. I just am curious if we should start another activity or if you're almost there.
I'm kind of at the whim of the program. And it's this initial calculation of demographics is a little bit heavier. So my estimation would be if you can give me 5 more minutes, I can
Okay.
probably get it.
Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna move to now we're gonna switch our brains off from maps and we're just gonna think about the recommendations that we're going to write. So I'm gonna I identified 4 categories. So and we have 4 tables. One is budget and resource allocations. Annie, I think it would be awesome. Oh, you have 7 minutes. Can we keep you for 7 minutes on that topic? Thank you. So recommendations for budget and resource allocation. Programming was another bucket we identified last week, thinking about additional programs that could draw students in. A policy table, which Maya, I think it makes sense for you to be at. So we'll do programming, budget, programming, policies, and then other is over here. And so if you, which means you get to catch a lot of things, right? So from our last meeting, we thought about policy JFAB, which is the admission of non-resident students. So your recommendation could be to the board, create a policy that directs students to a certain school. And then frequency and conditions of boundary review. That's also like directing the board to have a policy around that. And frequency of student forecasting is the other piece that got named the last time. But in the other bucket, so things like school start times, walking distance, things like that came up over the course of our time together. And if you have access to the Miro board, there's lots in there. But yeah, and we've got some expert professionals in the room that are going to come around and be part of your groups. Yes, I can help you. And we're going to take 10 minutes.
Yes. I don't know, that's my question.
Yeah, no, I'm talking.
McKay, are you just about ready?
You dropped middle school. I like it. I don't know if it's still a thing. Yeah.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, I have the map up and I have the numbers and we can go through it with you when you're ready.
Oh, I couldn't quite hear you. If you can hear me in the room, yeah, raise your hands, clap once, all those things. All right, McKay, we can hear you now. What did you say?
Okay, I just said that I have the results here. I wanted to remind folks where the economically disadvantaged numbers were currently. You're currently at 71.7% at King, 60.5% at Lincoln, and 59.7% at Moore. With these changes, because they don't move a ton of students, you stay at 71.7 at King. You go from, for Moore, you go from, oh, no, sorry. Sorry. I was looking at utilization. Let me restate this. Your economically disadvantaged currently is 71.7 at King. It would not change in this scenario. Lincoln is 51.5%. It would increase to 52.2%. And Moore is currently at 46.4%, and it would decrease to 45.5%.
Bummer.
So,
Damon.
I have some concerns with this scenario for King, I guess. It's the most utilized and by far the highest economically disadvantaged number.
So that's why I honestly feel that we should consider sending, although we didn't have the good community engagement on that, but send the entire East End.
No, we did because
We
that
did have
was-
good community engagement on that, and they
Yeah,
said
that is-
no.
Yeah, no, but I would still try to look into sending that.
And I think Boyd was sort of in support of that too.
Going to more?
Yeah.
I am. I think it's hard for anyone to consider change. But I do think that there's ways to address some of the needs that the community has had. But I think when you have almost a 30% change between one middle school and the other in the economic disadvantage, I think we're doing students a disservice. And I think it does even it out and also evens out the utilization. So I think for the long-term health of the community and for the students, I would be in support of it. And I'm going to hear a lot about that tomorrow at school, and that's fine with that discussion.
So then we maybe come back to what Damon said, which is, could we ease the pain of that transition by pushing it out a little bit to maybe create a health center kind of option at Moore, or get the middle school students on Metro, which might help with the transportation.
It's okay.
Just come back to that, I guess.
I just like a year probably isn't enough to do all of those things, but I do think that we could have conversation and find some solutions. Yeah, Kate.
I can't do it. I feel like if the most
Talking to the mic.
if the most disadvantaged group of students has told us that they don't want it, it feels very uncomfortable to me to decide on their behalf that we think it's better for them to go to Moore. I'm not saying I disagree with Boyd. I just feel like if I have to make a choice between those two, it would be to honor what we heard, that staying together in this scenario is what they want. I also agree that the difference between 46 at Moore and 71 at King is not acceptable. So both those things are true.
Yeah, we have a lot of multiple truths here, don't we?
I just wanted to share a suggestion from the superintendent that we could potentially make the changes to middle school boundaries contingent on some things. So contingent on there being a health center at Moore or something of the sort.
I mean, it's just, like, is there another, I know that this is like another bait and switch, but like, could we get the utilization down at King at least by like taking the waterfront and putting it on more, or like, is there another split that we could consider here?
Like taking all
That-
the ocean and moving it to more.
I think part of the problem with that is the geography of like how close a lot of the ocean students live to King. Like that just is a big part of it.
Right, because that doesn't help. That doesn't
And
help
also,
with
like,
utilization.
Ocean is the most least economically disadvantaged school. So if you take them away, that's just going to drive up the ED of King.
And I think there was also a mention of the island students possibly going to more, but there was a transportation concern about that. I don't know what, how big of a concern or what the travel time change would be.
I mean, the thing, if you care about ED, you can't have Reiki and East End kids going to the same middle school.
Yep.
If you care about equity, you can't have Reiki students and East End students both going to the same middle school.
Do you have a solution, Sarah Warren? It looks, I see a twinkle in your eye.
No, oh no, I have more problems than solutions. I I think I heard you say if you care about equity, you
Yes,
couldn't
in
have.
terms of economically disadvantaged students. If you
Right.
want the middle schools to have some equitable distribution of students by economic disadvantagedness, then you cannot have all of East End or even part of a majority of East End and Reiki go to the same middle school. It just does not work.
Right. So I guess the the one caution I have as I hear that is we're equating, and I'm not saying, because this is where the committee started its work, so I understand that we're equating the balance of economically disadvantaged and more advantaged students with equity, and I think that the committee's been looking at equity in a more complex way than that. And so I don't know, I just want to come back again because I was sitting in the room. The families from the East End very strongly did not want to be moved out to more. And it was, the health consideration was secondary, I think, to me. What I heard was the walkability. That was the major concern, and the proximity. So I just want to make sure that those voices aren't lost, because we can sit in the room and say that equity is about the balance of socioeconomically advantaged and disadvantaged, and I'm not sure that's what we heard from those families that were going to be affected directly.
But are we getting a truly representative sense of the families at East End? Because those are just the ones who are able to show up to those focus groups at that certain time, and we only had one multilingual focus group.
I mean, I can't say definitively, but our multilingual team was also speaking with a lot of families outside of that, and we were hearing similar concerns.
Yeah. I mean, in like past processes, it felt like we have had more input from multilingual families in this process than others. Not that that totally answers your question. We can always be better, but I do think.
I don't know. I go back to what the research has shown for years on kids' outcomes, and schools that have more economic disadvantage or more full or disproportionate representation of historically marginalized groups, kids of color, they do worse when they are segregated racially and economically at schools.
Go for it. This is probably not helpful, because we go back to the problem of trying to change everything right at the end, but maybe if we're if we're willing to consider kicking the can down the road with the middle school boundaries, it could be interesting to look at like splitting the city into thirds, because we do actually sort of have an a middle school in the northern part of Portland, one in the central part and one in the southern part. And I don't know if we could materially change things by kind of splitting up Lincoln and more differently than we currently are. But just thought I'd put that out there, since if not now, when?
Yeah, and
More like this,
I think
Right. But Talbot instead.
Right.
I think that McKay did talk to that at some point, because it doesn't help the ED percentages of more, because that's so heavily concentrated at the bottom of the that you have to pull something from the cove there across.
I also, one of the things comes to mind too when talking about this is essentially I see how the parents could feel this way, because it does feel like we'd be literally busing kids from the East End, and we know historically busing does not work. So I think yes to a balance of like not wanting to have segregated schools is important, but also like why don't we just resource the schools that might have more need than to, I don't know, move kids to a different part of town or move families that clearly don't want to move.
So we're coming to the end of our time here. Go ahead.
Just one other point I think we didn't bring up that these families were sharing is that they said they historically have had to move a lot in their lives. The adults have had to move, the children have had to move. Every time they move, they have to switch schools. And so I remember there was one father that said, we're not even moving, and now you're saying that you have to switch our schools. So that was stressful for that family.
And just to add to that very quick, that area of East End right there on the bottom that's going to King right now, it is an area that a lot of family moves. And when they move, they actually stay in that King neighborhood. So I agree with the point that you're saying about the King, because that would not help families not move as much. But I just wish we had another way to add a few more economically disadvantaged students to more as well.
If I could ask, maybe what if we looked at if at least improving the utilization? Maybe there's a switch between, in the Row district, maybe some of those students, or maybe all of Row goes to Lincoln. I don't know what that looks like. Just a thought. Yeah.
Split Talbot. Oh, right, that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah, then split Talbot.
If you split Talbot, what?
We are I mean, I think we could put this to the board that there are two like truths here, and the committee couldn't get to consensus on the middle school because both sides are really, really challenging, and charge the board with doing, another scenario or more community outreach. I'm not sure, but like both sides of this are very challenging and have huge impacts on our families.
One of the things that I heard repeatedly at the community engagement sessions was that we don't truly have a forcing factor to make changes at the middle schools right now. We didn't really at the elementary either, but it is a possibility that maybe we just don't do anything, don't even do cleanup at the middle schools, and then see how things play out, possibly whatever the high school for the future plan is, that might change things. See what comes down in the next 5 years and revisit and see if there's anything that could affect the middle schools in one way or another. We could also say if utilization drops to 52% at one middle school, then we revisit or something like that.
Why wouldn't we at least clean up the splits? It seems to me like there's not a huge downside to that.
Because doesn't it change the percentages of the utilization and ED significantly at like more?
Small.
It
small
does
changes.
not.
Sorry, what was that, McKay?
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say that the scenario that you were looking at previously, does not significantly change the utilization or the economically disadvantaged numbers. That's because you're making such small modifications and affecting such few students, mainly here and here.
So I'm going to make the suggestion that we move forward with the boundary that's on the screen, this map with
Oh.
the.
I mean, what I just
Jay
did, I
is,
was just, so,
just changed it significantly.
yeah.
Talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
your bait and switch.
I wanted to see what it would do
I'm
to,
just kidding.
I just really quick, just with the recommendation of what it would look like with this area of Talbot going to Moore and this all going to Lincoln. I think the only thing that it does is it not significantly, it does increase the economically disadvantaged at King because of the smaller
Because
population.
losing Row
You're right.
and Stratwater.
I don't think that's going to put us in the right direction, is it?
I'm trying to go back, I promise.
Yeah, and the board actually has a meeting after this, so we really
Okay.
cannot can't go
Oh.
over too long. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, it feels like the committee's been really deliberative and thoughtful, and we're at like the end, and it feels like we gotta get there, and so there's a lot of like woo pieces that feel like would be where we're going slow with some suggestions to the board.
I mean, I do think that like before this lassoing, like that version, it felt like we did get to spend some time on to understand the numbers. Like I would still feel comfortable with that previous version, moving that forward.
Yeah, move that back to Lincoln.
Well, it was
The-
like cleaning up all the blobs.
Right, but
And leaving East End split, basically. Go back a couple steps here.
Right.
Row, Ocean, and East End would be split.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm okay with that version.
Yeah.
I would be
I'm gonna be the fly in the ointment. I'm not. I just think if we're not gonna do anything, I hear the community's concern. But I think is this gonna end up with the really high change in differences between? It's pretty high if East End and King are.
Oh, you mean?
And Reiki are at the same middle school and we don't make any of those changes.
Yeah, I
So
think it stays.
I can't go along with that. I like cleaning it up and leaving it alone and then see some things that shape out because I think there's a lot of things that need to be in place for community. Because the argument would be the same, like if we talk about the high school for the future, you're gonna be having kids bust all over the city to one location that's away from their homes. I know they're younger kids, but it's all the same arguments, but I do have a problem. So I can't go there. Not even, I just can't do it from my point of view.
Yeah, and would you be okay with I can't put this sentence together.
I'd say clean it up, the small pieces, but that's. as far as
But
I
you
go.
would not be in favor of like the
If East End is continued to be split, I'm not.
East End is the same. It would just be the top hat that we added to Longfellow. We would make that Lincoln.
and that area
But no change.
that should go to Lincoln,
Okay.
to the upper right there. That's part of
Would
Talbot.
just make it would not split Longfellow.
Okay,
That would be
I can do that. I can do that as long as we're not making wholesale changes that are going to
I
impact
think that's the only change I'd
significantly
be comfortable with.
the demographics across the school and the utilization.
Be that 40 whatever percent and 70 whatever because that's what it is.
Is that,
It's a problem right now,
yeah, okay.
and it doesn't make that problem worse, but it also doesn't improve it.
Doesn't make it.
All right. Yeah, as long as we're basically keeping the status quo and cleaning up some of those pieces, I'm fine with that. I just don't want to go down the road where I think we would be making some changes in a couple of years anyways. So then I can do that.
I think what's on the screen is the consensus.
yes.
Potential for consensus.
So McKay, could you just one more time read out what the utilization and economically disadvantaged rates of this map that you currently have up are?
Yes, so you are currently with your current middle school, your current utilization for King is 71.7%. In this scenario, you would still stay at 71.7%. At Lincoln, you are currently for utilization at 60.5%. Lincoln would go up to 65.2%. And Moore is at 59.7%. Moore would go down to 56%. And then in economically disadvantaged pieces, King would be at, King is currently at 71.7%. They would go down to 70.8%. I need to make sure those numbers are correct. And then Lincoln is currently at 51.5%. They would go down to 49.9%, and Moore is at 46.4% and would go down to 41.8% because of the
No.
losses of these populations.
We're gonna I don't think we can get there right now. Like I because that is a too big of a disparity for us to move to for me.
What happens is the utilization numbers offset, but it drives up the economic disparity.
And I think you have to have one or the other. And personally, I think you have to have more significant utilization decreases in some of the schools that are at the highest level of students and need.
Well, I guess we just kick it to the board then, because they're gonna have all this work that we've done. They won't be starting from square one.
I got it. Take it to the board. I think the directive is just that we couldn't find substantial difference or recommendation.
And that maybe I am concerned about those Longfellow hat kids having to split off.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a different way to address that through waivers or I don't think it's a ton of kids, but I just don't want to leave those kids who are now getting split. But I don't think we need to change the map necessarily to do that. But
If I could just say, I do think this map is an improvement in a lot of ways. And I would be in favor of it if it included taking the East End to more, but maybe we could recommend it conditional on the two policy changes, one being the health center at Moore and the other being Metro middle schoolers on Metro. Yeah.
So I've got to call the meeting because I have to go into another meeting.
it won't be
You have that right, because this is my favorite group. So I'm just gonna end.
More people.
No, I don't say that to all my groups. You can ask them. Also a very good group. I work with a lot of groups all over the city and the state. I just wanted to end on incredible gratitude. And I think to go back to what Sarah Warren said, the ways that this committee has been able to really understand the nuance across our city and our student populations, I think is outstanding. And I think this result is because it is so complex, right? And I think we've done incredibly good work and thoughtful work, and I hope you feel tremendously proud. I would also encourage any of you that want to run for school board in the future, because you know all about our district already. Yes. But really, thank you. And so my next step will be to write all of this up, and then I'll send it to the committee for any feedback.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, McKay.
Thank you.
It was 9 months longer than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.